So I've been on this for the last couple of weeks now, and that is the media's almost need to have to overcorrect everything they got wrong about the Chiefs last year. Because the Chiefs offense was struggling last year, and a lot of people said, oh, this is the year you knock them off, and they still won the Super Bowl. A lot of media, it feels like, just can't be negative towards the Chiefs today, this entire year, not just today. But today especially, so the news of the day is Deandre Hopkins traded from the Tennessee Titans to the Kansas City Chiefs. DeAndre Hopkins, I want to be very clear before I say this. DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers of his generation. I believe he still leads the NFL in terms of players who are active, the amount of career receptions. He is going to be a Hall of Fame player. And in his prime, DeAndre Hopkins was absolutely special. If you look at his numbers and really go back and look at the quarterbacks that he's played with, DeAndre Hopkins was special, a stud, no doubt about that, an A1 type of player. The year is 2024 and DeAndre Hopkins is no longer that player. The year is also 2024 and the Kansas City Chiefs are no longer that offense that just because you did plug and play with a receiver, that it automatically means their offense is going to start scoring even more points. I brought this up yesterday. What is the difference between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers? Maybe that the Chiefs are a better version of what the Steelers are currently. But if I were to tell you that a wide receiver past the age of 30, no longer in his prime, was traded to the Steelers, would we be up in arms? Would it be a huge news story? No. The Kansas City Chiefs, who have been struggling on offense for the better part of a year and a half now, the Kansas City Chiefs who have a quarterback who has more interceptions than touchdowns, the Kansas City Chiefs who have not been explosive in years, just added a past his prime, over 30-year-old wide receiver. And the difference is minimal. And if you're another contender in the AFC, if they're being honest with themselves, now they're not going to give Kansas City bulletin board material, but if they're being honest with themselves, I don't think the Ravens saw this move and they're shook. I don't think the Bills saw this move and they're shook. If you consider the Bengals just because of the nature of having Joe Burrow, I don't believe they saw this move and were shook. DeAndre Hopkins is not moving the needle in 2024, but yet I had to hear all day about how this is going to be a great addition, and he's going to, maybe he's not Rashee Rice, but he's going to fit right in there, and, what Juju did, and he had 100 yards the other week, and he had a touchdown in the Super Bowl, and Sky Moore had a touchdown in the Super Bowl, and now he's just going to automatically improve this offense, because how could you not improve this offense when you have Patrick Mahomes? Well, the reality is you can't improve this offense because this offense has been very poor for the last year and a half. And DeAndre Hopkins, past his prime, again, A1 is prime, one of the best receivers of his generation. He is no longer that, and this Kansas City Chiefs offense is no longer that. And I don't think either of these things are going to fix each other. As well as I saw this narrative going out too, and I want to try my best to dispel this, even though I completely understand why people believe this. I saw a lot of people on the internet going, why would you trade with Kansas City? Why are you continuing to get? We did this with Buffalo. Buffalo was like, people said, why did Buffalo trade? And that's the trade that, during the NFL draft, and that's what got them Xavier Worthy. Why would you trade with Kansas City? Teams just want to see why they're the defending two-time champions. They're the dynasty. Why are you doing any kind of business with them? I understand why fans feel this way, but the reality is, especially if you're the Tennessee Titans and your timeline of being good to great is not on the same timeline as the Kansas City Chiefs, why wouldn't you trade with them in order to get future assets? Why wouldn't you trade with them in order to get some of their draft capital? Because if we believe, and I do believe this, part of the Chiefs' success is also at the general manager position with Brett Veach and how well he's been able to draft defensive players for the Chiefs and keep refilling in this team even post Tyreek Hill leaving. And if you look at that first Super Bowl roster, there's not a whole lot of guys still left there. So Brett Veach's ability to draft and acquire more talent, and he's got to do it relatively cheaply because he's paying Mahomes a bunch of money, Kelsey gets paid, Chris Jones just got paid. Why would I not want to take away from that? If you remember during the Patriots dynasty, Bill used to love trading for draft picks. And while we all know, or at least the last thing we saw was Bill not being a great general manager, the reality is when the Patriots were at their peak, they drafted well, they accumulated more draft picks, and they gave themselves more opportunity. They understood there was a way to do this for a prolonged period of time versus teams like the Rams, and they won a Super Bowl and they kind of went all in. Team like the Bucks, who because they got Brady, they went all in. Bill understood there's a way to do this long term and maintain success. So if you're a team like the Titans, or you're another team that, you know, your timeline of being good, and I believe this too even with division. People say don't trade within division. If I'm not on the same timeline as you in division, if you're on the same timeline and we're competing, fine. That's a slightly different argument. But if you don't feel like you're on the same timeline as the Chiefs or whatever team is currently great at the time you're rebuilding, absolutely. Take some of their future draft capital. Oh, well, it's just a 5th-round pick or it's a 4th-round pick if they make the Super Bowl. Look at how many guys are currently contributing in the NFL that are 4th and 5th-round picks. The NFL is not like the NBA or not like Major League Baseball where it's handful of first-round picks truly make a difference year in and year out. The NFL is full of guys who are drafted in 3rd, 4th, 5th, etc., who all make an impact. The Broncos have the most improved defense in the league. They have one first-rounder that's Surtain on their defense. So I don't think, and again, the media's just been talking all day about, oh my gosh, they got Deandre Hopkins. Chiefs are going to be back. The Chiefs have not been that version. I understand that's how we were introduced to them. We were introduced to the high-flying offense. We were introduced to them scoring all these points. But the reality is that's not who they are anymore. And the addition of a 30-plus-year-old wide receiver, as great as he was in his prime, is not going to be the difference maker. Moving from that, I've said this a lot, you go from cutting edge and innovative to outdated really quick. People that are really smart, really creative, really innovative, and they do all of these things, and they're the first ones to do it. When they are no longer at the forefront of their thinking ability or their physical prowess when it comes to athletes, they become outdated. This also works with styles and the way that we see things. They're called trends. When you have a trend, it is popular in that moment, or it is cool to watch in that moment, but that style does not last. Some styles are forever. We got Jordan shoes, those are forever. And then there's a bunch of trends who are here today, gone tomorrow. And while I don't want to say this trend will be gone anytime soon because there's a bunch of stats to back it up, when the Warriors and Steph Curry really turned into the Warriors and Steph really became Steph and they were shooting all these threes, it was the first time we had really seen that. So it was interesting, it was creative, it was exciting. Now, they've always done this in the All-Star game. All-Star game has always shot a bunch of jumpers, always shot a bunch of threes. Numbers have always been inflated, but it's an All-Star game. Steph and the Warriors made it look cool and appealing, and the style of play was something we enjoyed watching in the regular season because we had never seen it before to that level. If you are over the age of 20, you heard when you were younger Charles Barkley say you can't win a championship off jump shots. And now the Warriors, who had a dynasty through jump shots, the Celtics won a title last year off threes, we know that's no longer true. But that style of play that was exciting and innovative and cool when Steph and the Warriors are doing it, because the first time we had seen it. Did you watch the game last night? And I know Tony's going to kill me for this, and that's fine. I'll eat this. That didn't look like a fun basketball game to watch. 60 3-point shots? Like, that's all-star game type stuff. And we don't have to discuss how bad the all-star game has gotten for the NBA. I think both the Celtics and the Knicks are both, the Celtics for sure, the Knicks, there's an argument, are better than the two teams we saw, both better than the Lakers who we saw in the second game. And the Knicks, you could have an argument they're better than the Timberwolves who we saw in the second game. And that second game with less talent, less good players, less good coaching, was far more entertaining because there was different things that we saw in that game. It wasn't just shoot a three every single possession. It wasn't just kick and drive. It wasn't just pass around the arc until someone has an open three. Like, there were picks, there were back screens, there was these simple things that we recognize as basketball. Now, again, Steph, because of the uniqueness of him, is more of a style that feels like it lasts forever. I don't know if I'll ever get tired of watching Steph Curry shoot. But watching a team put up 63s, that felt like an all-star game. That wasn't enjoyable to watch. And I know statistically, I get it, threes more than two, spacing the floor, pace, that's what the game has become. But that wasn't a good product. And for the NBA, your product and the way it is perceived is going to matter a lot, especially in the beginning of the season, because you had not a lot of headlines and not a lot of people talking about your last NBA champion, the Celtics. Not a lot of people talking about your best players during the offseason. Again, we talked about this yesterday. A lot of the best guys in the NBA, Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, they're not even in America during the offseason. The Olympics got attention. The Olympics got hype, but that's more for the Olympics. The Olympics doesn't really translate to advertisement for the NBA. So, again, the Celtics are a great team. We know that. But that style of game, that trendy look of let's get up 63s, that didn't look like a pleasant game to watch. And there's this line, I've brought this up before too, there's this line as a fan that you realize you're watching guys do stuff that you know you couldn't do. And that's part of the appeal of professional sports. Now, some of us are delusional and think, oh yeah, I could do that. But the reality is, most of us can't do what we're watching on TV, and that's part of why we watch it. I could miss 13 straight threes. And for a while, the Celtics offense, after they got off to that historic start shooting, it just felt like, all right, pass around, everybody takes a shot, and I could go do that. I'm going to go to the gym after this. I could go to 24-hour, and I could get up 13 shots and miss. I could get up 63s and just see who hits more. The game of basketball cannot be, where it currently stands, just set to, oh, it's just whoever makes the most threes win, and it looks like that. At least with the Warriors, KD had a mid-range. Draymond was somewhat involved in the post. There were back screens. There was cuts. There was a lot of motion to the offense. What the Celtics did last night just looked like pass the ball around, shoot a three, make or miss, and we'll live with the result. So, again, I love basketball, love the NBA. Celtics are a great team, not trying to take anything away from them. But that game last night was not good for the eyes. It was not good optically. It was not good for the viewing experience. Even if you were a Celtics fan, fine. You won the game. You made more than threes. Cool. You're going to feel good about that. It was banner night, celebrate. They brought out the big three. All that stuff, all wonderful. But to the people that are not fans of the individual teams, which those are millions and millions of people, especially when you get these primetime national TV games, like it has to look different than that. That can't be what we saw last night. That can't be the future of the NBA. That can't be it.